Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Bloom, Group Publisher of Walls and Ceilings, and welcome to If Walls Could Talk. It is such an honor to have with me today Travis Fapp, the CEO of South Valley. Travis, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Jill.
Well, it's always fun to catch up with you and hear what is going on at South Valley, because you guys always have incredible growth and change and innovation happening all the time. So I'm excited for our conversation. The first thing I want to start with, Travis, is let's just talk about what's your forecast for 2025? Clearly, there's a lot of things changing in our country right now.
It's a great question. In our region, we're Rocky Mountain, Colorado. It's a challenging environment right now. We're very fortunate that we do have backlog right now, but the second half of the year, it's uncertain. However, the exciting part is even through the uncertainty, because we can't control the short term, we can't control how that's influenced, but long term, the prospects are really, really positive in Colorado. I mean, we're looking at 3 major multi-billion-dollar developments, not including airport work. These are private work around the Cherry Creek Mall area. You've got a massive development on the west side of the mall at the Elitch Ball Arena by the Cronkies. That's a massive development. And then on the old Denver Post site, the Fox Park, it's called. That's a massive development that they're looking at a Virgin Hotel, along with all the other infill work and the other neighborhoods. So long-term, we're seeing tremendous prospects along the Front Range, but in the short term, it's pretty challenging, and it's not the best environment right now.
Okay, well, I love your optimism, though, for the long term. That's exciting to hear about all those projects coming up. The other thing we were talking about was, you guys have a lot of technologies, and there's some things that you're doing at South Valley to kind of merge the commercial and residential technologies. What is that? What do all the other contractors listening need to know?
Well, that's a really good question, and sometimes, I always question if we push too hard. But at the same time, it's really rewarding. So one of the really unique things that we're doing on a job, we have a 21-story, very good client, the Beck Group, the developer's Stonebridge, and it's a split apartment building and hotel product. But what we're doing is we integrated all 3 of our business units. So we have South Valley Prefab doing prefabricated building envelope. So it's a 21-story post-tension high-rise. Then we have our commercial division, South Valley Commercial. We 3D modeled the interior, then we roll formed and kitted all the steel. We bought all the coil through our SFIA partners, and then they're out there leading the charge. But another technology that we brought on, we're actually using 3 layout technologies, which is kind of unusual. We're using the Hilti Total Station,
okay,
and that's for surveying and point and verification. Then we're using Dusty Robotics for production layout, when we can get big runs, open areas. And then we're using Lidex for anywhere where there might be shoring in the way or job site logistics. And then we come back and double check and pull it back in line or verify with Hilti. And it's unique, but it is flat out working. And we measure, how we know it's working is we measure our bid budget versus our actual budget.
Okay.
And we are saving, I think, around like 18% on labor.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome.
And it's spectacular. Well, then the last part is then we brought in our South Valley Drywall, our residential drywall division, because they're far more skilled at hanging and finishing drywall. And they are doing that building. It's amazing. We are doing a floor every about 10, 12 days.
And how big is that floor?
The floor plate's like 24,000 square feet.
Wow. Okay. Impressive.
We're hanging it with about 8 hangers, and we're finishing it with about 12 finishers. And it's all level 5 work. So
okay,
the production from our South Valley Drywall side is 3x what we normally see. They are just flat out skilled in that arena. And the exciting thing is they're making more money than they've ever made doing this job on most projects. And it's a win-win in our quality and our client. And it's exciting how we're merging that all together. And it's a kind of a look into the future where you'll see our company and the environment we're planning on being in.
Yeah, wow, that is impressive to hear. 18%, that's big.
It's enormous.
And you also mentioned something about roll forming. What are you guys doing with roll forming, and what is happening there with South Valley?
That's a great question. So we got into roll forming back in like 2017.
Okay.
And I searched the market, and there was really nobody that kind of hit the sweet spot for a contractor like us, because we have to have North American steel, follow North American code, AISI, ASTM standards.
Right.
But we learned a lot from looking at some of the New Zealand, Australia technology, learned a lot from looking at the very sophisticated roll formers the production people use. And what we ended up doing is we combined all the technology, then we partnered, and then we created a company called Irene Steel. And we make roll formers for contractors that focus on prefabrication and kitting.
Oh, nice.
And then the other exciting part in our network, as it continues to grow, It serves as a benchmarking group between operators, between companies. Plus, we also teach them where to buy coil, and we basically teach them that you need to support the people you've always bought from. So you buy coil through SFIA members, right? Because we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
And that's what we'd want our clients to do, right? If our clients were looking at different means and methods, all we ask is they come to us. So we're doing the same with our supply chain and manufacturing, even though there may be a lot of unknowns. But what we're finding is it's pretty exciting. So through Irene Steel, it's we're seeing a lot of growth there too for people.
That's exciting. And so Irene Steel is part of South Valley.
It's a separate company,
okay.
But it created in their own leadership. But
that's awesome.
But yes.
And so now, what are you roll forming? Are you roll forming the studs, the walls? How are you doing that? Exterior, interior?
So it's light gauge steel studs.
Okay.
So studs and track.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That's exciting.
It is.
And so the other thing that we were talking about was just, you mentioned something about daily production and transparency and some changes that you've made that are really making significant changes within South Valley. What is that?
Absolutely. So that's a really good question. There's some of this stuff that, like, when you look back in hindsight, we should have been doing better for a long time. But when you look in the mirror and you just do it, you just accept like the good and the bad of what you are as a company. There's a lot of good, but there's also some bad, and we need to do better. So one of the neat things that we're doing on these really high profile jobs is we are daily giving back from our superintendent down to the laborer what the bid budget versus the actual installed, with what their expectations are per day, with what they're actually getting for the entire job. And then if they stay on the progress, where they're going to end up, good or bad.
Okay.
And then if it's bad, what do they have to do to recover that?
Okay.
And we're giving that every day. So, and in the beginning, it created a lot of people were scared because they thought we were telling them that they're doing a bad job, but that wasn't what it was.
Sure.
At all. Even though there's no easy way to do it, right? You have to give people information, and if information's bad.
Yeah, and transparency is scary,
right?
But
it is
until they.
But the good thing is our managers really sat down with our people and really dug in, and they just said, I know you may not like to see this, but you got to see it.
Yeah.
And then from there, when they understood that they weren't in trouble,
right?
Then we were using it. Because think about it, like how embarrassing is it, like that we weren't giving our guys on these high profile jobs daily.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like weekly we thought was great, or every other week, but the reality is daily allows them to be professionals, because that's what they are. They're craft workers. We can plan, we can work with our supply chain better, we can work with our client. And all I can tell anybody out there is it's easy for all of us to tell our great stories of our companies, but there's sometimes we just look in the mirror, and even if we think we're doing well, maybe we're not doing as well as we thought we were. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, but we can get better. And that was more of the story. And the results that I'm seeing out of this is just tremendous. And the growth, and I feel silly that we have not been this disciplined in the past with our South Valley commercial business unit.
So how has that changed the culture on every job site?
I would tell you, when I walk on the job site, it's all about feel. And the feel of the job site is more collaborative, working together, and they're working towards a common goal. Mm-hmm. But I think the key to it is that information was never used as punishment. It was just used as, hey, this is who we are. Yeah. What are we going to do? And we're working as a teammate.
Love it.
And that, I think that's the key when you do initiatives like that, is you can't get upset if you don't like who you are.
Yeah. So how do they get the information at the end of the day? Is there a board on the job site, or is it something they get on their phone, or is it just a printed report they can take home and digest?
That's a great question. So the email it's a PDF report that goes to the division manager, the project manager, the superintendent, and it also goes to both the owners, myself and my business partner Garrett.
Okay.
And then the superintendent and the foreman on the job site, they basically print it out and they post it on the gang box or in the job trailer, and they review that with the crews.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. So they know it's coming. They're expecting it. They now know, like, okay, here's how we can improve each day.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Very fun. Well, the other thing that I think is really cool that happens within the AWCI is the emerging leaders. And you and I were talking a little bit before we hit record about suicide prevention and safety. I've got a couple questions I want to ask you here, but before we get into suicide prevention, I want to talk to you about safety, because a few years ago when I first met you, we had a great safety story that you guys experienced at South Valley. but it sounds like you've implemented some other things all through HR within your company. What is that? How has that changed, and what does everybody need to know?
We've always been good at safety, but we haven't been, I would say we haven't been great at safety, but I would tell you we're great at safety. And we're only good as yesterday, though.
Sure.
As you know, the moment you think you're really good at something, typically that's when you should be really scared. But what we did is we took all that stuff, we kind of looked in our peer group, which is a great resource. Also, AWCI's safety committee. We benchmarked off of them through some different stuff. And we identified one of the things we really needed to dig in on was safety committee. But we really wanted to know who needs to be on that committee. Now, a lot of people want everybody in the room. And depending on where you're at as a company, that may be great. But where we are at currently as a company, where what we want is 100% of our superintendents are on the safety committee.
Okay.
Then you have myself and my business partner, Garrett. You have my controller and our HR manager, our safety director, then all of our superintendents.
Okay.
And that is their time to work together and do problems. So we start with typically a team building activity. So the last time we literally did, how do you do a JHA? And just retaught how to do it. And then we broke everybody up into teams. And then we basically there were 5 teams of 4 or whatever. And we gave out a real world scenario. And those teams had to build a JHA. Then they had to present it back.
Okay.
Okay. Because our whole goal with the JHA is we want everybody, the moment they step on the job site, they're doing a JHA in their head every second of the day. Because in construction, things are changing at a rapid rate, right? And the best success is if you and I are walking a job and you put your hand on my shoulder and you say, Travis, watch out. You almost made a mistake. And I'm not a bad person.
Right.
Right.
No,
but
you don't know. Right.
I need your help.
Sure.
Right. And I know that's a simple
Teamwork.
example, but it's just across the board if we think about it. It's no different than if our eyeglasses are fogging up or somebody has them on the head. It's easy to say, get those on. Right. Well, what if they're the wrong glasses, or what if they're fogging up, or we don't know. Why don't we just ask our people hey, I noticed you have your safety glasses up. There's obviously a problem. How can I help you?
Yeah.
What do you need so we can get the right piece of equipment, whether it's gloves or blah, 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 right?
Yeah, there's a lot of details. Devil's in the details.
Then we also go over all of our numbers.
Okay.
So we review all of our numbers. To me, the biggest number that I look at is days away of work. Okay? Because days away of work means serious injuries. Now, the recordables, I don't mind if they're the highest you ever have. Now, that's a little counterintuitive to a lot of people because they want low numbers. Why I'm okay with a high TRIR, that's a mouthful, but is because we want to know every single thing that's happening. So I don't care if it's a little cut, go to the clinic.
Yeah,
because if we don't know, we can't help. The other thing we do is we give immunity for safety. Okay, so because now if it's like a legal negligence, I can't help you, right? Or if it's redundant, now we have a really problem. But if you make a mistake, even if it's a massive mistake, the only thing I say is, here's the deal. We need you to talk to us. The only way you can talk to us is you're not going to get in trouble. We need to know what's really going on.
Sure.
Right? So we talk about that in our safety committee. We bring up issues in our safety committee. And we're trying to coach and mentor our superintendent level because they have the most impact today.
Sure.
In the future, our safety committee may look different. We may have different people in it. But right now, we feel that's the best way because they're the people that are leading the charge, leading the culture. And really, we've got to just dig in on that and teach and coach and mentor that. So that way we keep not having incidents. And right now we are over 460 days without a lost day incident, which is really, really exciting.
Amazing. That is amazing.
And like I told our team the last time, I said we have door A or door B.
Right.
Door B means randomly something happens and we just accept it. Or door A means we really dig in and nothing ever happens again. Let's try to do door A.
Yeah. So. Got to learn from mistakes. It just happens, right?
It is. So that's again just building on, but we didn't come up with that ourselves. We basically had the help of the AWCI Safety Committee, our peer group, a lot of people, and we just took the best and put it together, and then we're just digging in and really, really trying hard.
Well, that is awesome because everybody wants their team to go home safe every single night, right?
Absolutely.
And so the other thing that I think is really important that we are talking about, and this is an initiative that I have with all of the brands that I oversee, is suicide prevention. I heard a stat last year that there's about 400 people that die every year from falls, but there's 4,000 people that die every year in construction from suicide. And what we just talked about, I mean, all the time and energy that we put into safety, and it's all companies, because I know all companies want their people to go home safe. And that's for those 400 people that die of falls. But my goodness, there's 4,000 people every year, dying of suicide. It's something that needs to be talked about some more. And I'm so excited to hear through with AWCI that is being covered on the safety committee and the mental health committee. What are you guys doing, and how can people get involved with that, and what are you guys changing?
So first, I mean, I have chills like hearing you say the stat, because it's just, it makes me so sad. Like our industry, like we have amazing people. We have some of the most talented people in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And it's good to know that that's the problem we have. I am so proud of our industry from a safety side, how we look at it, collaborative, companies are pouring money into it. Mm-hmm. But it's a real awakening when we're not adding that mental health piece onto it.
And we have very fast. It happens very fast. Someone can go from zero to like, wow, really scary very quickly.
And it's easy for any of us who hasn't personally, kind of felt in some of those ways to relate.
Yeah.
So we can project on things that maybe are not helpful. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing, and to me, Travis Windsor, CEO of Raymond Group, and past president for AWCI, I credit him for taking the lead on this in AWCI and a voice that's really being heard. Yeah. And it was a handful of years ago, and he brought it up in executive committee meetings, and he didn't let it go. And that's gaining steam. We've had speakers each of our conferences and talking about it. They're doing articles about it. I mean, you talked that you guys are Walls and Ceilings is going to do a piece on it, which is amazing. But absolutely. There's two things. One, 988, that's the number we all call that was set up 24/7. It's sitting there waiting for anybody that needs help. And I know that's easy for me to say, hey, if you're like, but the other part of it is we're, unfortunately, one of our safety managers committed suicide a handful of years ago.
Yeah.
And
so sad.
Had no idea. And it's the saddest thing. One of the most unbelievable people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And I remember it like yesterday. The day before he committed suicide, he came into my office and he said, hey, we have an EAPS program. And I'm like, yeah. And I wasn't even thinking it was him. Right. And I'm like, oh yeah, Heather's down the hall, HR. Here's what it is. And I'm like, yeah, go talk to Heather. She can give more information so that way you have it. I failed as a leader to actually ask the right questions, to understand that he could have been possibly talking about himself, right? I was solving a problem. I was quick, I'm solving it, right? But yet I didn't realize there was somebody reaching out to me in that time of need. And he walked down that hall. I honestly don't know if he talked to Heather or not, but I failed as a human being that I didn't recognize somebody was in need. And that's a problem. And that's really unfortunate. And I hope in the future that because we're focusing on it and we're starting to do it and we're going to get the tools as leaders and managers and people to how to better help people or talk about it or make it, get to it way before it happens, right? Mm-hmm. Or where that person is in that dark place. Because he has a wife and a child that are, years now grown up, and it's a massive void, and he was a wonderful human being. And I think back that, I failed him and his family because I did not recognize that I should have been listening and understanding, be like, hey, Matt, are you okay? Is something going on? And that's hard.
It is hard. And you know what, Travis, you've got such a big heart. It's hard to, it's hard to know what questions to ask or what to, what to see or what to look for, right? What is it that we're all looking for when it comes to that? So
you're right, but I'm telling you, I think our industry, what we're going to do, so the positive of this horrific, and I'm telling a story of one, but there's people that have more. Like there's so much more, and we're just but we have a part to do. I will tell you that I believe that our industry, because we are made up of amazing people that dig 100%. In, that give. I mean, our people, when they talk about the phone call of who would you call if you needed help, God's honest truth, I look in our company, there's top to bottom people that I know I would call not only in my own company, but here on this floor that would get in their truck, come see me, or get on a plane and come see me if I just said, hey, I need to talk.
Yeah,
And that's who construction people are.
it is.
So to me, out of the tragedy, all we can do to help the people that that aren't here is we need to double down on the mental health side, like
Yes.
we have on safety,
Yep.
and just realize that we need training, we need to do it, and through that we're gonna help people. And I
100%.
think all of us as just people and business owners and managers, we're going to do some special things on that, and we won't know the results per se.
Yeah.
We'll start to see them, but the initial we'll know because
Yeah.
it's the right thing.
It is. Well, we're excited to help with that education and an initiative. It's definitely very important. Well, Travis, I really appreciate your time today. If anybody has any questions about South Valley, where do they go? What's the website?
Southvalley.net, and then that will then lead you to all of our companies. If you're interested in roll forming, irenesteel.com.
Okay.
And then my information's on the website. If anybody ever wants to come visit, talk, that's how we grow this industry, and would be happy to, and just really appreciate the opportunity to just talk here.
Yeah, most definitely. Really appreciate your time. And if anybody has any questions for us, it is wconline.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for all our free content, sign up for our e-newsletters. It's free to register for our website. Follow us on all our social media channels so you can stay up to date and all the great content and educational information we are putting together, just like we are today with Travis. But most importantly, please stay safe and healthy, and we can't wait to talk to you soon.
Thank you,
Travis,
Jill.
very grateful.